Chapter 30, Air Brake Foundation Systems and Air Brake Circuits, Day 2, Video 4, Quick Release Valves. Okay, so in the foot valve or the treadle valve, we were sending air through that valve out to the brake chambers. If we sent all that air out, we had the connections that went through the delivery port and sent that 5 or 10 pounds of air out to the brake chambers. What we would have is during a brake application, the air flows through and builds in the brake chambers and applies the brakes. When we release the brakes, so we've got 2 brake ends on the secondary side on the steer axles and 4 brake ends on the primary side over your drive axles, right? So if we think about it, that is a lot of volume of air that we've got trapped out there in those brake chambers, right? So that 5 or 10 pounds acting on those brake chambers, slowing the truck down. When we release the brakes, right, we open up the exhaust, the delivery side to the exhaust ports of the treadle valve, and all the air would now flow back through and then out through the exhaust. The problem we run into is now we've got 6 brake chambers trying to send their exhaust air through the single exhaust port there in the brake chamber or on the treadle valve. What we would have is now all that air is going to get be restricted. It's going to slow to flow through that exhaust. So what we would have is a slow release of our brakes. So we need to find a way to quickly release the brakes, vent that air off very quickly. So they come up with a quick release valve. So we will have this quick release valve between the brake chambers and the treadle valve. We'll allow that brake that will assist us in quickly releasing the air, so quickly releasing the brakes. Single inlet and 2 outlet ports. So this is a schematical drawing here of the quick release valve. So this is what it looks like, right? Single inlet and then 2 outlets, one here, or like a T-fitting. Inlet here, outlet here, right? So we can have the inlet coming in and this going to the right side steer axle and this one going to the left side of the steer axle. So it's acting as a T-fitting. The air pressure, so when we have no, we're not making a brake application, so 0 psi in the delivery side, my foot is off the brake pedal. We've got a rubber diaphragm here that is opened up and is opened these lines that go out to the brake chambers to allow to flow through right to the exhaust, so there's no air pressure being maintained out there at the brake chambers. It's all open to the exhaust right here. And then whatever was in the line coming into the quick release valve goes back to the treadle valve or the brake application valve and is exhausted out of there, right? So we make that 5-pound brake application. We send air pressure out, comes into the inlet here, and then acts on this surface of this diaphragm. Moves the diaphragm down and pinches off or closes off the exhaust, right? Now the air pressure that is coming through is allowed to flow through, different passage, out the outlet side of the quick release and out to the brake chambers, right and left, right? So as long as I've got pressure on the top side here, I'm asking for the brakes to make a brake application, the 5 pounds, it's going to close the exhaust port here and open it to the delivery port here on the quick release valve. I make that 10 pounds brake application. Again, more air is going to flow through and we increase the braking effort. I release the brake, my foot off the brake. We vent the air pressure there at the treadle valve. That reduces the pressure here on the inlet side, and now that pressure is gone, right? I've got air pressure, the diaphragm opens up, right? Now I've opened up a port or a passage through the exhaust port here at the quick release. Now that air that was in the brake chambers on both sides is now opened up to exhaust and exhausts out right here. So I would have this out there on the middle of the axle, And then so we would have a short run of air hose coming out to the brake chamber on each side, so it would allow that air to vent to exhaust very quickly. And then the only thing that the treadle valve has to exhaust out is the air that's in the line between the quick release and the treadle valve. So that way we have a quick release of the service brakes.